Ladies and gentlemen, welcome inside the Tower Grill on the campus of Arizona Christian University for episode 18 of season 2 of the Storm Report. I'm your host, Tim Gooszen. Alongside me, guys in the middle, we're going to talk a little volleyball with these guys. On the far side, we'd like to welcome Luke Sanders, an intern with us, but doing some broadcasting with us as well. Kevin and Ed are on other assignments tonight, and so we're here to take you through episode 18, and we're looking forward to having a packed full night. We're going to talk men's volleyball first. We're going to have men's and women's tennis on, and then we're going to end the show with a little track and field, talking with a couple of athletes from track and field. So, Mr. Luke on the far end, how are you this evening?
I'm doing wonderful, sir. I'm glad to be here. First time doing actual sportscasting on the Storm Report, so it's just an exciting day to be here and do what I can do and to just be a part of this group here. Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we'll jump right into it. Welcome to the Storm Report. We're joined by head coach Trent Bruns in the All Black, and then joined by libero Hudson sitting to my immediate right. He's the man. So, gentlemen, been an exciting couple of weeks for you. Got to play the number 1 team in the country, got to play the number 4 team in the country, got to play the number 5 team in the country, all 3 matches back to back to back, and you ended up 2-1 in those 3 matches, and of course knocking off the number 1 seed Vanguard and then the number 4 seed or the 4 ranked OUAZ. So, gentlemen, it's been a good couple of weeks for you. Let's talk about it, Coach. How are you looking at those last couple of 3 matches?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for us, we've kind of been teetering all year on that. At Vanguard, we lost 28-26 in the 4th set. So we've been teetering with these, 1 through 6 teams all year. So I remember telling you, right, at the very beginning of the year, I said, one of these days Tim is going to say, it's not going to say ACU goes toe-to-toe, it's going to say ACU upsets. And sure enough, it happened, and it happened twice in a row. So it was just even sweeter, like I was saying before. It happened at home versus Vanguard, the number 1 seed, and then at Ottawa on their senior night in 4 as well. So good hot streak. Again, we always kind of knew that we had it, right? And then once I feel like we won, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's like once you know kind of, hey, this is what it looked like and how we play, you kind of have an image of where we know our success is at, how to pass the ball, and we can kind of continue to strive for that. So I feel like we've always been kind of teetering, but then once we got those wins, it was kind of just like that confidence boost. Okay, hey, we know how to do this, and let's just go back and do it again.
Hudson, how about you, your experience the last couple games?
I mean, obviously exciting, and like my greatest memory from that Masters game, Vanguard game, running up and just hugging Cade right after the game, and I have it on video in like 4 different directions, and just running up, giving him a hug, and then celebrating with the team. It was that game that I turned around and I said, I'm literally going to tell my kids about this game in the future. Like when they ask about my career, I'm going to be like, we swept the number 1 team in the nation, and then going into Ottawa, and I've been doing very good at not being nervous. In that game, actually, I felt some nerves, and with the gym being packed out and just everyone there and the cheerleaders, I was a little bit nervous. And then we got out on the court, and I feel like I executed pretty well. And they've all been exciting games and fun and good environments too.
Yeah, I was kind of curious. Why did you because you could see it, I even saw it. Cade's in the front left, and you're over here off the court, and you go around the group and then go straight to Cade.
Yeah.
Was that a predetermined
or what? Well, it had 4 angles to it, so it must have been
Cade has his celebration where he stands there and just has his mouth wide open.
That's true.
And I saw everyone come into this huddle and just celebrating, and Cade just standing there like this, waiting for someone to give him attention. So I just sprinted right at him, get him out of his pose.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Look where you're at.
So, Hudson, you said they had some pregame nerves going into that one. Do you think your nerves propelled you to do good, or what do they do coming into the game, the nerves, that is?
I think, beginning of the year, my nerves were a negative effect on me. South Mountain game, I started outside that first set, and I was a nervous wreck. I mean, granted, first game of collegiate volleyball ever for me, but me and him have talked a lot about it, and we've kind of worked through it throughout the year. And I'd say the Ottawa game, by the time I got there, it was more of a positive effect on me.
So you've been used to it at that point?
Yeah, using those nerves to actually help me play better.
How to put it into practice?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome.
Well, Hudson, you got a great teacher when it comes to learning the art of playing libero.
Yeah, he's great.
Mr. Trent Bruns, of course, the Grand Canyon all-time digs leader,
Yep.
just down the road there, that little small school just down the street.
Yeah.
So,
a terrible color.
hey, I didn't choose it.
Doesn't look good on
Yeah.
me.
So what have you taken through your freshman campaign, learning from Coach Bruns, knowing that you guys played the same position? He's got to be a fountain of youth for you.
Yeah, I mean it's been a lot to say the least, and not in a bad way. It's just a lot more attention than I'd say I'm used to. I've kind of come from a place where I'm always like, not to brag, but like top of the top on my teams, and coaches have to focus on other players more than me. So coming here, it was like a whole new environment where it's every single play he has something to say to me. And I think at first it was hard for me to kind of like work through that and basically not let him get in my head sometimes when it was like a negative criticism or a positive criticism. But it's been a lot to work through, and it's been like really helpful, and my skill level has gone from like here all the way up to here just in a year. So
A freshman from Henderson, Nevada. What is that, about a 4-hour drive from here?
You came from Colorado.
I'm from Colorado now, so my roster has Henderson, Nevada on there because it sounds cooler. But I lived.
Also, because you input it in there as that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I lived in Nevada for basically my whole life, and only lived in Colorado for the last 2 years, so junior and senior year. But I just wanted to put Nevada because it's cooler on there.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so how's Colorado then?
Colorado's awesome. Yeah, the weather is like completely different here. Love the snow, so don't get to see that very often. Still haven't gone up to the mountains since I've been here, but maybe we'll make a trip out this summer.
Well, the mountains here and the mountains in Colorado are a little bit different.
A little different, but
We got snowballs.
yeah, you got snow.
We did get a lot of snow, and not quite like some places in the Rockies. But so, has your family had the opportunity to come out and watch you play in the Firestone Rec Center?
Yeah, a lot more than expected. Actually, I don't even know how many
They surprised
times.
you when they're out there because they came to Vancouver.
They surprised me for one of the games. I think it was like earlier on in the season. They just showed up out of nowhere, but most of the time they let me know. But it probably came down for like 7 or 8 games. It was a lot, and stayed for a few days and got to hang out and go to dinner with them, so that was nice. And if they're not here, they're watching the streams and texting me the whole game, so that's cool.
My dad still does the same thing. He's texting me all the time.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. The game ends.
Hopefully,
and
you're
I have
not
200
responding
messages.
to the text during the games.
No, I don't know, man. No. It's a good thing. I'll kind of like it. I won't.
The whole electronics on the bench now is a role that isn't playing volleyball. Was not for many years and just changed just a couple of years ago. How's that impacted actually your view of the game or your ability to manage the
like
game?
Stats and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, we've kind of talked about it in relation to like an offensive perspective too, because I'll talk with our setters and say, hey, who are our top, 3, 4 guys, kind of list them in order. And so we will go through that margin. And so sometimes we'll be looking at it and I'm saying, hey, why does Cade only have 3 sets, right? And he's one of our top 3 guys. And so you can kind of look at it from a balance perspective, because sometimes what you can do is you can just kind of get in the rhythm and not really be thinking a whole lot. But volleyball has to be thought about a whole bunch, right? And so especially with Chris, in the last few games that he had, he's having half of our attempts because he was just going off, right? So other teams will notice those things and try and pick up on stuff like that. So it's important for us to have some balance with all of that. So that's kind of what we use the the electronics and stuff for, is to kind of just check and see what we're hitting and kind of see where our balances are at, who's on, who's not, and just kind of ride with it that way. So just helps like with little insights. The game can get kind of fast, and you just turn and look at it, take a peek, and kind of good to go from there. So
it's a quick version of what you get in between sets when we hand you the stats, and you're able to see that. But in the meantime, you're able to see that in the middle of the set.
Yeah, and I'll even look at the prior game stats, these game stats, and say, okay, well, Cade went 2-2 on 4, but now in the next stats you give me, he's 9-3 on 12, and so it's like, okay, he's picking it up a little bit. Let's continue to give that. So it just kind of gives us an in-game side of that. So yeah.
All right. Luke, you have anything?
I had a question for Coach here. When you bring in new players, like when you brought in Hudson last year, are you really interested in seeing if they can, for their athleticism, can they play other sports that well, or do you want them to focus on one sport, just volleyball, or do you really care that much?
I talk about just multi-sport athletes here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely, it'd be a tough thing. Let's get real, because if you're in season for football, you're in preseason for volleyball, but volleyball is so relational, and so you don't quite maybe get all those connections. How do you balance class with weights and all these other things? And so I kind of just boil it down to this. Usually we don't allow it just because it's hard to build an empire when you have someone who's like half bought in, essentially. Right? So the player would have to be really, 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 really good in order to be able to do that, because ultimately volleyball is also a culture sport. Like I would even say, last year we probably had some more physicality, and this year maybe not as physical, but we're better this year because we're solely more bought in. So for the whole multi-sport thing, and not the biggest fan of it, I think it can be done, but it's also just a tough life, and I don't even know if someone can sustain that for all 4 years.
But then what about multi-sports just on the side, like not an actual sport in ACU, but just being an athlete of other sports, you'd like to see that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely there's a balance. Like I'll let you guys play.
Yeah, I mean, if the basketball team wants a 5'9" sharpshooter, I got him.
I mean, I could 5'9", you're minting it now. You're minting it. That's 6 foot.
Well, I think the roster says 5'10". I think the roster says 5'10", but I don't even know where I'm at, honestly.
Yeah, but I mean, again, you gotta have balance of life, right? So you gotta be able to have some fun. But the biggest thing is that we keep our priorities straight. Because if my guys are playing some sport and they get rolled their ankle and they miss a game, that's pretty bad.
Upsetting,
they're supposed to use obviously their best judgment with that. And so far, we haven't had any issues with that. So haven't had to regulate it just yet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ironically, you do have a two-sport athlete on your team in the likes of James Henson, who played soccer and volleyball. Maybe not soccer for you so much.
Played, past tense, not anymore. We made him choose right away.
Right.
You need to figure this out, man. He chose volleyball. Let's go.
And he's having quite a season as well. Yeah. But, Coach, you had the opportunity, if you had been able to upset Masters on Saturday, you would have gone to your first conference tournament. But you still have had a great year, 10-10. Most people are like, oh, that's 500 year. And you're like, well, that's big time for ACU volleyball. So the 10 wins, you're trying for win number 11 to close out your season when you host Park Gilbert on Wednesday. What are you excited about as you head into your final match?
I mean, I'll say practice today was shaky. It was not the greatest. He could agree. It was it felt like, oh, we missed playoffs, and so we're just going to kind of come in here now. And, season's not over, man. And I could say, so I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us, but, I definitely want to be able to pursue it with some fun as well. Because if we go out there and we try our hardest, we're going to be just fine. But it's also important to practice that tomorrow, too. So that's probably going to be the practice line tomorrow is when we come in, we're going to make teams or say, hey, let's do this. Let's start it now. Let's make sure we kind of leave that. So I'm looking forward to another opportunity because, kind of early on, I feel like when you're becoming a better team, you can be playing really high and you can be playing really low. And so I think it's important for us to kind of go out there and be the aggressor. And if we do that, we're going to be just fine. So,
Hudson, your final match of your freshman campaign, 116 digs for you so far. I'm sure you're looking for more on Wednesday.
Yep.
What are you approaching this final match heading into Wednesday? How are you approaching it?
I think one of the hardest things for us as a team this year has been to reset and flip that switch in our brains. After a hard loss, we go in the locker room and we're all upset. But then you can look at the stats and see holy crap, this guy had 30 kills or whatever, and it's been hard to see the positive side of things. So after that Masters loss, we were all obviously upset in the locker room, but then you got to look at it and be like, this is the best season we've ever had, So I think going into the Park game, it's more so just obviously have fun, but still get what we need to get done. You know what I'm saying?
In the year on a positive note.
Yeah.
And I'll be there alongside.
Yeah.
It'll be senior day. We'll be honoring the fellows before we get started. Throw up first serve at 6 o'clock from the Firestorm Recreation Center just across the parking lot. We've been having the opportunity to speak with head coach Trent Bruns and libero Hudson Harms from men's volleyball. And gentlemen, thank you for your time. And we're going to now direct our attention to men's and women's tennis when we come back from the break. Head coach Phil Carlisle will be on the set with us right after this. Welcome back inside the Tower Grill on the campus of Arizona Christian University for episode 18. Just had the opportunity to talk with a little volleyball with Coach Trent Bruns and libero Hudson Harms. And now we turn our attention to the tennis courts as we welcome head coach Phil Carlisle. No stranger to the Storm Report. I guess that's the way to say it.
Correct.
Coach Carlisle's been on with us many times. It's always a fun conversation. So, Coach, how are you?
Good, tired. We had 3 days in California, got back about 2 a.m., technically Sunday, and we leave at 3:30 tomorrow morning for Texas. So it's just that season. No rest, but that's okay. So other than that, feel good. Feel the season's been good, and that's the energy from that's kind of getting me through the sleepless nights here.
Who needs sleep? Sleep's
Yeah, it's
overrated.
overrated.
I don't use
sleep
it.
when I'm dead. It'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be good. So, Coach, when you look at your record, I know people would say, oh, it wasn't the greatest. You haven't had the greatest of seasons. You still have a lot of opportunity to make some changes around what your final schedule looks like. But ultimately, when you and I have talked, we've had lots of conversations through text or whatever as we're talking about post-game stuff and your post-match, and you're like, oh, man, we played really well. The scores don't reflect it. So when you're looking at that type of knowledge and that type of experience, what are you taking from this season so far?
Yeah, I mean, on the girls' side, I think we would have liked to have seen more overall wins, but I think the progress that Deandra and Vittoria have shown individually has been a huge win for us. I mean, both have excelled. I mean, realistically, doubles, they haven't lost a conference match. They went, 5-0 in the conference, and will come out as the number one ranked doubles team in the West region here in the next ranking poll, which a year ago, I'm not sure if they won a conference match, to be totally honest with you. And so that's been a huge thing. Singles-wise, they've done well. Carla has also done really well for the women. So that's been good. We're seeing those wins, and then, all the girls kind of behind them are a bit younger. On the guys' side, maybe it hasn't been exactly where we were last year. Maybe our record isn't as good as it was last year, but we're still sitting, number 2 in the conference right now. We still have survived more than a few very tight, tough matches. I'm sure it would have been nice for that to be a bit easier at times, but we've done what we've needed to do, put ourselves in a position to try to make our way back to the final. So hasn't always been the prettiest, and certainly some of the wins haven't been easy, and we've had to survive a few times, but again, just seeing the team come together after losing players from the fall. We lost 4 of our top 6 guys from a year ago. So seeing them come back together, and the new ones, the young ones, come in and have a big impact, and then our returners just kind of step up and take the reins in the leadership has been really cool to see.
Luke?
Speaking about leadership and cohesiveness, is on both your teams you have a lot of players from out of country that come in, and just with those players mixed with the players that are from in the United States, how has it been going with them getting along and just having a mixture and being good teammates? Have you liked what you've seen on that, or has it been hard for them to get, to become one with the differences in where they come from at first?
Yeah, it's actually it's been really easy from that perspective. I know it seems weird, but somehow, some way, getting people from a lot of different countries and different philosophies and just backgrounds in some way makes it really fun. I think the guys, both teams, the guys and the girls, they really enjoy getting to know more about their teammates' cultures and their beliefs and things like that. And so it always makes for really fun conversations. But honestly, as a team, I haven't seen a team be closer in 11, 12 years now of doing this than we are this year. So the girls, we were just in Georgia. We spent an entire week in a house together. We rented a house for that trip, and I thought by the end of it they might kill each other. That was my view going in. Yeah. And by the last day there, they were all still hanging out together in the living room, watching TV, watching movies and things like that. Our guys, during our match at Hope, one of our players won his match, and the whole team ran out and kind of tackled him. But the match wasn't actually over, so then they tackled him and then got right up and then ran and sprinted to the other to one of the other courts where our last match was going on, and then he won, and then they all ran out and tackled him. And so I think everybody just kind of understands that we're a little bit different. Everybody's a little bit different, but it makes it fun. It makes it exciting. There's always something new to learn about each other. For me, it's been a great dynamic.
And it's definitely probably been a good 2-for-1 kind of thing where your team, I mean, your players are learning about teammates, but also learning about cultures and countries and foods and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, foods is always an interesting one. Everybody likes it when our Italian girl, Vittoria, makes pasta and things like that. But
awesome.
yeah, I think it actually learning about each other and kind of having grace and understanding for differences in how people have been raised or whatever it is. I think it's helped our players grow, learning about each other and kind of and getting their background. So I think it's been really helpful and beneficial for everybody.
Awesome.
Well, Coach, you've already mentioned your trip to Texas coming up. You've mentioned your trip with the women to Georgia and leaving to go to Texas. It's kind of like a delayed spring break trip almost. You didn't do anything, travel to do any matches with the men during spring break a couple weeks back for us, but then you were with the women in Georgia. So as you're heading to games against Texas West or Wayland Baptist and...
No, you had it right, Texas Wesleyan.
Texas Wesleyan. And then... Texas A&M, Texarkana. Got to make sure you add Texarkana. What are you looking to get out of that trip going to Texas?
Yeah, so both of those teams are receiving votes, and so that's something for us. We're trying to hopefully put ourselves in a position to, we'll see how things play out within the conference, but if we don't win the conference, then maybe put ourselves in a position to at least get a look for an at-large bid for the national tournament. But I think the guys are excited. We decided to do separate trips this year for the two teams. Logistically, it's kind of hard with everybody. It may seem easier just because it's one trip, but with everybody, guys and girls, it becomes very difficult to travel around and relationally feel like we're getting to invest as much time into each team. So we did it this way, and I think it's been better. So I know the guys are really excited to go. We did well in California for the first time being away from home. So I think something about kind of being on the road and being on somebody else's home courts kind of brings that fire out of you a little bit, trying to be the villain, I guess, if you will. But so I think the guys are really excited. I'm hoping that we'll play really well. We've been playing pretty well. So they know it's going to be a tall task. They know it's a big challenge. But anytime we get to play teams outside of our conference and kind of show our quality nationally, I think is a huge thing for us. And so we're just excited to get over there and try to show some other teams outside the GSAC what we can do.
What do those lineups look like? Are they international flavored, or are those like a lot of American-born?
Nope, pretty international as well. That's just kind of the landscape of NAIA tennis. There's a lot of international flair to it. So these teams are going to look pretty similar to us, I think. They've got some Spain, some South America, some European, England, places like that. So very similar to what we have. So I think it's going to be pretty similar matchup, similar vibe. So the difference for us is, our guys that maybe aren't always on the court, they are loud and they love to cheer and they love to get into it. So we don't know what those teams are going to be like, but we know that that's a huge strength for us, and we're hoping that'll carry over to the away trips as well.
Are you taking your entire roster with you?
Yep, we're going to take them all, just shove them into a couple of minivans and, make it work from there and just shove them into a few hotel rooms. So, but they like it. They know it's not the most comfortable trip in the world, but I think they just enjoy being together and they like the opportunities to get out there and play. And there's a huge value, as we saw this past weekend, there's a huge value in having those extra guys help create that atmosphere, that energy, that intensity that our guys on the court genuinely need. And I think in big matches, it's really crucial for us to have those guys with us.
Luke, you have anything?
Yeah, I have a question for you, Coach, and that's a student-athlete question. It's so these players that you got, have you had to get that much involved with them or with their teachers at all, with how they're doing with their grades and their assignments, or they've been pretty independent and go themselves, or how has that been?
The girls are great. I don't have to do anything on that side. Yeah. They do a great job, and never any issues. For the most part, the guys are great. Obviously, there are times where I'll have to get in and say, why am I getting an email from Brenda Spear, or, why did you miss this class, or whatever it might be. So, and that's just kind of part of it.
But as a whole, they're doing pretty well.
As a whole, it's usually a pretty easy conversations to have, and you don't have to get on them too much by any means, but every now and then you just got to get a little bit, give them a little kick just to get the work done and get to class and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, they do a good job.
Okay, that's good.
Well, Coach, for you, you talked about hoping to get in that large berth into the national tournament, but the one tournament that can help you really get there is the GSAC tournament coming up. We will have the opportunity to host that tournament, that we being ACU, and that will be held at the Surprise Tennis Center, which is a local trip for you. Actually, everything from you from here on out is on the road. So as you're got a couple more. You go to Texas, you go to California again, play Point Loma, but then 24, 5, 6, and 7, hopefully you're still playing through all of those dates. You're going to be Surprise Tennis Center. Where are you trying to head your team as you head down in those last couple of weeks before then?
We know right now we probably need to get a little bit fitter, a little stronger. We don't have the quantity of matches this year that we had last year, so we're probably not in peak shape, peak condition right now. So I think all the guys walked away from this past weekend knowing we need to do a little bit more work on that in that area, which is good to see. So we're going to definitely kind of tune up on that over the next 3-4 weeks, just doing a bit more conditioning and some of the physical stuff. As far as the tennis goes, I think we really started to find our form in doubles. We struggled with doubles the first however month, 6 weeks of the season, but I think recently we've really started to find our feet there with a bunch of new players and things like that, new combinations, new pairings. That's going to take some time. So we're definitely moving in the right direction. I think we showed very well against Westcliff, who's going to be the #1 team in the tournament. So we know we've got work to do, but I think we walked away from Westcliff not feeling like, wow, they're so much better than us, we have no chance, but walking away feeling like, you know what, on the right day, if we can play our best and we get the right conditions, courts that we know, hopefully it's going to be blazing hot, dry, all that kind of stuff that maybe they're not as used to. We know that we have a shot. And so I think for us it's just preparing for that. We know we still got to get there. We're going to have to go through a couple of tough teams before that. So we're not overlooking anybody by any means. But I think the guys walked away from the weekend knowing that there's a big opportunity in front of us, and they're going to have to put in the work, and I know they're ready to do that.
Well, as somebody that's going to have the opportunity to be around that experience, because I'll be SID on site taking care of reporting stats and everything, I'm really hoping for not the blazing hot.
Sorry. I'm hoping for nuclear hot. 95 would be delightful, but for you, that's
well, for anybody, I don't think it would be, but it would help you as a team. I understand.
Yes.
So, Coach, we thank you for your time. We've been speaking with Coach Phil Carlisle from men's and women's tennis. Coach, you're doing a great job with your teams, and I always enjoy your enthusiasm, not only about just tennis, but this guy knows about everything. You sit down and have a conversation. You want to talk about baseball? Phil can talk. You want to talk about World Cup soccer? He can talk. You want to talk Olympics? He's your man. So, Phil, it's fun to talk to you no matter what.
Yeah, and after the fall, I know cross country. I see Brandon sitting over there. I know cross country now too. So I went with them on a trip, and I got to learn about cross country and realize that to view a cross country race, you have to run as much as they run.
It's true.
It's very true. Now I got that too.
You've been to a couple of cross country meets where you just find that one spot that's kind of in the middle, and you may have to walk through some dead riverbeds or dry flowers or something, and then you go and you stand there and you're like, oh, there they went, and oh, there they went that way.
So that was me.
I know you got to drive a couple of times for some other teams. So, Coach, it's always fun to have you on the show, and we appreciate your time, and go out and have some fun in Texas.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Things are bigger in Texas, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we've been speaking with head coach Phil Carlisle from men's and women's tennis. And coming up next, we'll take it to the track, and we're going to talk with Brandon Ericson and Kourtney Bruner on the other side. Welcome back inside the Tower Grill on the campus of Arizona Christian University, episode 18 of season 2 of the Storm Report. I'm your host, Tim Gooszen, far side, Luke Sanders. And now we get an opportunity to welcome to the table, to the studio, to the whole kit and caboodle. We get an opportunity to talk to Brandon Ericson and Kourtney Bruner. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on.
Be here.
So you're right in the middle of track season, both of you. You both had a pretty good meet. A couple of 3 or 4 first place finishes for you, and school records. Just an average meet, just kind of ho hum for you guys, right? Yeah. So you don't have the opportunity much, but this is your one night, your one meet that you get to run at night. That's because you ran in they even call it running something in the dark. What is it? Distance in the dark. Yeah. And so you guys had that opportunity to do that. So walk us through your last weekend where both of you had success. Kourtney, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so we ran on Saturday, which Distance in the Dark ran on Thursday. And we had a really good meet. It was super small, but we got opportunities to run against each other and run against other community colleges. And we did well. We had a 4x1 for the boys and girls. And it was just a start kind of to see where we were at. And, so we were doing really good. Everyone is being really focused, and the coaches are really pushing us to do our best because we got about 5 weeks left until conference. So, it was a good weekend.
Brandon?
Yeah, so I raced on Thursday for the distance portion of our meet, and it was really small. Our main competitor was Paradise Valley Community College, so we're very familiar with some of these guys, just racing and stuff. I was able to do the 1500. It was just really cool weather, just perfect condition weather. It was just a matter of how I was going to race it. Had some similar guys with me competing, so just able to see the strategy and just try to break a record, just try to PR at first, and try not to do anything too insane off the bat, but just try to see where I'm at right now for 1500. That was pretty good. A lot of other guys did really well. Teammate Trent Jansen did really well for himself, and so did Connor Berg in their 5K. And it was just a really fun time at night. So,
well, it's kind of odd when you look at the results. I'm used to seeing you guys running the distance because both of you are also members of the cross country team.
Right.
So I'm used to seeing you guys run a little different. But you ran hurdles and also ran. There was a third. What was the third one? I wrote it. The triple jump. You did triple jump. That's not a normal cross country type regiment for you guys. So was that an intentional change where you mixed up your events, or was you just, hey, coach, I want to try something different?
Yeah, so I was originally recruited for track, and then Coach Brent was kind of like, hey, you've done cross country before. And so he kind of just asked me to go out for the team, and it helped me stay in shape. So I went out for cross country. I'm not super great, but I enjoy it. And then I'm mainly a sprinter and a jumper. So, I did really well this weekend in hurdles. I got both of them, the 100 hurdles and the 400 I got PRs in, so that was really fun.
And then triple jump, why not? You were flying through the air for the hurdles. Why not do the triple jump?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I like it. So, Brandon, for you, I know you talked to 1500. Were you in another race? That's the only result I'm aware of.
So the week before I ran that GCU Invitational, and that's where I did the 5K, and so that's where I was able to break 15 minutes in that race. That was a whole different race than the Distance in the Dark race this past weekend, mainly because my race had about almost 40 people in it from all different schools, up the way from NAU all the way to MCC. There's a crazy amount of guys in there. And it was just really chaotic at first, honestly. It was super fun. It was another nighttime race, perfect weather. Everyone's energy was really high and stuff. We had one of the top NAU guys, Drew Bosley, in the race, just trying to make a regional qualifying standard time, and so he had a whole bunch of guys just go with him out front, and so I was trying to just run my race, and so I had another group of other guys that are close to me. I was able to lead a pack through it, and so we were able to get a good time together, and it was just everyone had a really fun time, and I had a lot of support from everyone there. It was just everyone was just really having fun. It was just all smiles all around that day.
All right, Luke, what do you have for you?
Brandon, you've talked about perfect weather a couple times, and when it's either the end of the spring semester or beginning of the fall semester, and it's a little bit hotter, around 100 degrees, do you feel like running in hot weather because I felt like this when I was, a baseball athlete before the Army, and then when I was in the Army running and all that kind of stuff. I felt like when it was a little bit hotter and I was able to get a successful run in that heat, it kind of helped my mentality, my tough mentality for when it was like a normal heat. Do you feel like it's kind of similar for you?
Yeah, for training-wise at least, running in the heat is just always good. That's one of the perks of living down here in Arizona, is just able to get some heat training in, of course, with caution whenever you do it. That's mostly during the summertime is when it's a big problem. Right now, it's been one of the cooler springs, so we've been able to get a lot of cool wind, and it's been just really nice to run out. And so the meets we've run out have been at night, so he hasn't been a problem. Probably more daytime meets, it'd probably be a problem. It wouldn't be too bad of a deal. We're just trying to condition ourselves to.
What has been more of a problem for you, humidity heat running or high intensity sun heat running?
Personally, probably just the high intensity heat running. We don't really run humidity. I don't remember last time I ran in it.
Oh, I didn't know about traveling when you guys have gone somewhere.
We went to Florida for cross country season, but it was actually really dry and cold there too. So it was just a weird vibe in general. But the high intensity is what I definitely had to face the most.
Okay, awesome.
I think you've pretty much worn out the path between like here and Chick-fil-A to the Trent and around. I see you guys and gals running all the time. I'm like, yep, they're running.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen them a few times too.
So, do you stop along the way, pick up a little Chick-fil-A halfway through the run, or?
It smells so good, and it's like when you're doing one of those runs, you're like already hungry. You're like, oh man, but so you're already like hungry, and then you have to. I do another 9 miles before I'm able to go eat, but. It's all right. It keeps you disciplined, too, just to keep running. And we pretty much do that same route, going down Thunderbird and down the canal. We pretty much do that every day. So it's just something, that's easy for us to do. And, we try to do it together as much as possible. Just try to hatch it out together, because it's hard to do it alone, for sure. And especially since, at least the distance at our long-distance portion, not so many numbers right there, but just getting together as much as possible has really been helpful for us in that sense as well.
Kourtney, you're from Colorado, so how is the weather here affecting what your training regimen looks like?
Yeah, it hasn't really affected it too much. In Colorado, in high school, I would run in blizzards and, a bunch of snow and everything.
Yeah, we had that last week here, sure. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but I really like the heat. Definitely as a sprinter, heat is better because you want the track to be warm, you want to be warm. And so I like running in the heat better. I think for cross country, it's nice to do it in the cold or long distance. It's you can still be warm, but you don't want to be dying of heat. So, it definitely has been a change for sure. But 2 years being a junior now, I've really liked the change, and it's been good for my seasons. So.
One thing that I also noticed when I looked at the stats is I knew that you had a sibling. You have a sister here now. Mm-hmm. And so I saw you guys basically ran the same events. You did triple jump and she did something else on the side of that. But now that you have a sister here, what's that do for you? Psych you up, make you want to do more, or just want to be like, sis, I'm going to show you how it's done?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It's been giving me a lot of competition, which is good. In high school, we didn't run the same events. But now she's wanting to do the heptathlon, which is 7 events. So she's kind of been doing everything, and she really enjoys it. I think it gives me more of okay, I got to do good because I don't want my little sister to beat me. But it's been fun. And she also plays basketball, too, so that was getting her in shape. It's been a good time.
So she plays basketball to get in shape for track. You do cross country to get in shape for track.
Yep.
All right. It's about the same amount of running, maybe a few more breaks for basketball people. And so has your family had the opportunity to come out and watch both of you compete?
Yeah. So this is the first season that my parents have been able to actually move down here for the winter. So they are snowbirds now, and they live in Sun City, and they really enjoy it. So they've been able to come to our meets, and they went to Cadence's basketball games, and they leave the middle of April. So, they'll see a couple more meets before conference.
Okay. And last trip for both of you, Westmont hosting the last time as they move on to Division II. So who knows where the conference meet will be next year, but you both have been to Westmont many times, or one time for you, and you'll be back there here coming up in, when is that? That's the 27th, 28th, something like that, I think, of April. I know it's Westfall Week, which is the 24th, so I'm doing the math, and Thursday, Friday, and you guys will be competing. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish as you prepare yourself for a conference meet coming up in about a month?
In about a month, yeah, we're just trying to hit every week with as much intentionality as possible. Just like make sure we're showing up every day, giving our best effort every day. We're taking care of our bodies, so we're not injury. Injury has been a big theme, not only throughout cross country, but now in track for us. So it's just like trying to stay healthy and just trying to be there for each other. And either injured or not, everyone's just there for each other, supporting on the side. And it's just really encouraging. It's a really encouraging environment. But so we're just trying to carry that on throughout the next couple weeks, all the way leading up to bigger races, especially San Francisco this upcoming weekend. And so we'll see how it tests the waters over in another state. But it'll be pretty good. We're all excited here.
Yeah. Trip to San Francisco the end of this week, right?
Yep.
And it was going to be a couple of more meets, I think, but I think those have gotten taken off the docket. So just the one event on Thursday. Is that going to be like a primarily Division II field, or is that going to be a lot of NAI schools as well?
No,
do you know?
Actually very little NAI schools, I believe. It's going to be a lot of different Division II,
Okay.
Division I even maybe. So we'll see. It's a big playing field. It's a really big meet, so all types of competition is going to be there for everyone. So hopefully everyone can do their personal best.
Hosted is that University of San Francisco then?
San Francisco State, I believe.
San Francisco State, okay. Got it. Luke, anything?
Yeah, a question a little bit off topic from running, but a little bit related, and it's about your guys' diets with being in great shape as runners. And that is, I'm assuming that you guys have to avoid, to be in the great shape that you are, you have to avoid sugars and carbs, stuff like that. And how do you do that? And is it tempting, or are you able to stay away from that kind of stuff with do you have fast enough metabolism as you can, or how does that go?
Can I answer that?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is tempting. But our coach for the weight training, he has us keep our calories every day. So we have an app that I keep mine on, and basically it's just you got to be accountable, and you got to be accountable with your teammates. Just making sure that you guys are eating correctly, because that's a big factor into how you do in practice, and we always want to have the best practices. So definitely, sugar's not a bad thing, because it keeps you up, but you definitely want to keep your vegetables in, and we do that. So yeah.
All right, I got to ask you, which you prefer, cross country or track? I know this is track season. I know there's a lot going on. I think I know the answer to both, but it's a question of what do you have that you're working with, and what do you like? Because, for cross country, you get a different course just about every time you run, because none of them are the same. They're the same distance, a 5K for women and an 8K for men, but they're not the same course at all. Some of them have hills, some of them are grass, some of them are dirt. But on a track, you pretty much, you're like an NASCAR. You're just going to keep turning left and keep turning left. So what do you guys prefer? Which sport?
I get this question asked a lot, and honestly, my answer is whatever I do better in that year. So I'm always changing my answer, but whatever I feel I was more successful in that season is probably what I'll say. But I really enjoyed cross country season. I'm looking forward to what I can do this track season. So that's a question for the end of the year for me. But it's fun.
Got it. Kourtney?
Yeah, I really like track a lot better. I'm not super love with distance, so I definitely think that track is my better sport. But I'm not doing cross country next year because of student teaching, so that'll be a change for me. But yeah, no, track is my better sport.
So you're going to stay in shape by chasing a bunch of kids around. I like it.
Exactly.
What age group are you planning to teach or student teach with?
Kindergarten.
Ooh.
Goal.
All right. You're going to be really doing a lot of running, chasing kids down. I like it. So, well, we thank you for your time, and thanks for joining us on the Storm Report. I know it's a busy time of year. Papers are probably due, and you've got some homework you probably got to go catch up on. So we, again, appreciate your time and wish you success through the rest of your season, and especially as you're building up to head to conference at Westmont here at the end of April. So thanks for your time. We've been speaking with Brandon Ericson and Kourtney Bruner here on the Storm Report. A big shout-out and thank you to my co-host tonight on the far end, Luke Sanders, and also Trent Bruns, head coach of men's volleyball, Hudson Harms, libero for men's volleyball, and head coach Phil Carlisle. I think that will about do it from the Tower Grill here on this Monday evening. Thank you for watching episode number 18 of season 2 for the Storm Report. Enjoy what's left of your Monday evening, everybody. Tim Gooszen, have a great rest of your day.